Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're looking at a story that completely, and I mean literally completely, redefines the whole David versus Goliath setup. We're heading out to the pitch of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But amidst all the dazzling goals and tactical masterclasses you usually hear about, we're focusing on something else entirely. We're looking at an unmovable object standing directly in the way of an unstoppable force. We're going to explore a moment in sports history that, well, honestly, it feels way less like a traditional match and a lot more like a cinematic epic of survival, grit, and just absolute defiance.
It really begs the question, what happens when the ultimate underdog meets a giant on the world's biggest stage? I mean, really think about that for a second. Imagine you formed a local band with your friends in your garage, right? And for your very first gig, your grand debut, you're suddenly asked to open for the Rolling Stones in front of 80,000 screaming fans. No pressure. The bright lights are blinding, the noise is deafening, and let's be real, the expectations for you to fail are incredibly high. The stakes simply couldn't be higher, and the matchup is wildly, almost comically uneven. This isn't just about playing a game anymore. It's about surviving an absolute onslaught. It's about stepping onto a battlefield where everyone expects you to just be a mere stepping stone for a titan.
To truly understand the gravity of this, we've got to look at who's actually on the pitch. On one side, we have Spain, the seasoned gladiator, a heavy, towering footballing giant with this massive legacy of World Cup championships, a seemingly bottomless pool of world-class talent, and a tactical system that's literally designed to completely suffocate opponents. And on the exact opposite side, Cabo Verde, a small island nation stepping onto the World Cup stage for the very first time in their entire history. The classic, awe-inspiring, first-time challenger. To put this into perspective, stepping onto the pitch against Spain for your World Cup debut is basically like showing up for your first day at a brand new, ultra-prestigious school and immediately being told your first assignment is to publicly debate the undefeated valedictorian. The sheer psychological pressure of that scenario is almost unimaginable, and that's before a single ball is even kicked.
Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer, raw athleticism required to answer that massive challenge. You can see the Cabo Verde goalkeeper literally defying gravity right here. Look at his eyes. They are entirely locked onto the ball, tracking its trajectory with his absolute pinpoint focus. He's suspended midair, fully extended, stretching every single muscle fiber just to intercept that strike. It's a moment of pure, unadulterated commitment. I mean, this isn't just your standard athletic block. Think of it more like a superhero swooping in at the very last possible millisecond to catch a falling civilian. The net right behind him represents his entire nation's pride, and he has physically launched himself into the atmosphere to make absolutely sure it remains untouched. Let's move on and see how this builds, because of course the assault wasn't just coming from the air. From this top-down angle, you catch this frantic, diving save right on the goal line. The keeper is completely parallel to the ground, arm reaching out in this desperate, sprawling extension to push the ball away from that white line. If that last moment was all about flying, this one is all about anchoring. He's basically transformed his entire body into a physical barricade. Imagine a towering fortress wall just flat-out refusing to crumble under the heavy impact of a battering ram. Or picture a single, highly determined bouncer using his entire wingspan to successfully hold back a massive, surging crowd at a stadium. It's an incredibly frantic, chaotic moment on the ground, yet his intervention is just precise, resolute, and completely unyielding.
So in the context of this massive physical mismatch, we have to talk about the number 0. Normally in math, 0 means, well, nothing, right? It's an empty set, a void. But in this specific context, as the clock relentlessly ticked down, minute by agonizing minute, that number 0 completely transformed. It stopped meaning nothing and started representing absolute, flawless defensive perfection. Against an offensive giant like Spain, keeping that 0 on the scoreboard is like building a bank vault that simply refuses to crack, even under the pressure of the world's most sophisticated heist. Every passing second, that score remained 0, the tension amplified, and that 0 became this towering, impenetrable barrier built entirely out of sheer willpower.
And this brilliantly illustrates the spectacular culmination of all that effort. The final score, 0-0. Just let that sink in for a second. When the final whistle blew, that was the reality. The underdog successfully survived the onslaught. The tension of 90-plus minutes was finally, thankfully, released. Look, this wasn't just some boring schoolless draw. This was a successful defense of a full-blown siege. Achieving a 0-0 draw against Spain in your first-ever World Cup appearance, it's akin to weathering a terrifying Category 5 hurricane while barricaded in your house, and then stepping outside the quiet next morning to find that not a single shingle has been blown off your roof. It's just an absolute masterpiece of survival. This performance fundamentally changes how we even view athletic greatness. The source material captures this perfectly with a newly minted definition: hero, or herói in Portuguese, noun, keeping a clean sheet in your country's first ever FIFA World Cup game. We so often associate sports heroes with the people who score that flashy winning goal, right? The ones delivering the final, fatal strike. But this absolutely redefines what it actually means to be a modern sports legend. Sometimes, the ultimate heroism is actually found in the silent guardian, the one who simply refuses to yield ground, who absorbs wave after wave of pressure and just says, nope, not today, and certainly not past me.
So the crucial point is perfectly captured in this amazing collage. When we combine all these flashes of brilliance, the gravity-defying leaps, the desperate ground saves, the sheer physical toll of 90 minutes of relentless focus, we finally see the full narrative. This single image tells the entire story of full-time Spain 0, Cabo Verde 0. It reiterates that this draw was actually a legendary victory. Not a victory of points, no, but a victory of pure resilience. It proves that on the right day, with enough heart and an absolute refusal to be intimidated by the giants of the world, a seemingly impenetrable wall can be built by those who simply believe they belong on that stage.
Which brings us right back to you, the viewer. We don't all play professional football, and yeah, we certainly aren't all going to face down the Spanish national team. But we all have our own giants to face, don't we? We all experience those moments where we feel vastly outmatched, underprepared, or just completely overwhelmed by the heavy expectations weighing on us. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. What is your World Cup debut moment? When the stakes are at their absolute highest and the opposition seems incredibly fierce, how will you dig in, find your focus, and defend your own goal line? Thank you so much for exploring this phenomenal story of grit with me on The Explainer today. I can't wait to dive into our next topic with you.